Morningstar had arrived. Her brother, who was only 1.5 years older than she was, did not take much notice of her. He was busy hiding from the scary loud noises that the bombs made and the rapid fire of the machine guns. Morningstar's parents welcomed the little girl. She was born a girl, just like it was planned. The family had one boy, an heir to the non-existing throne and family fortune, and now a beautiful, plump little baby girl. Happiness filled the room, even if for only a few moments, because all over the world, the birth of a child brings new hope and smile, even in the direst of circumstances. This manner of arriving into this world was certainly a foreboding, telltale sign of how this little girl's life would turn out. Outside, the sky was dark, almost dawn, but not yet. Her father looked up into the sky and gave thanks to God for the safe birth of his daughter and the well being of his young and beautiful wife. When Morningstar's father returned to the basement, he saw the baby was crying. As he picked up the baby, she stopped crying and looked straight into her father's eyes. The baby's black eyes were clear and sparkling, just like the morning star her father just saw in the sky a few minutes earlier. So, since it wasn't dawn yet, he could not name the baby Dawn. The baby's father thought to himself, so the baby was named Morning Star because her eyes twinkled and shined just like her heavenly namesake. Morning Star inherited the color of her eyes from her mother, a beautiful young woman of 19 years of age. She inherited her intelligence from her father, at least that's what it was told to Morning Star. The little girl's grandmothers were thrilled at the arrival of this new life, but grandmother on her father's side objected to the little child very soon. She claimed the baby resembled none of the paternal family's traits, and she looked just like her beautiful young mother. The relationship between Morningstar, paternal grandmother, and her mother was strained, to put it mildly. The paternal grandmother did not feel Morningstar's mother was good enough for her son. She was very young and beautiful, but came from a poor family. Morningstar's paternal grandmother had been widowed in the First World War, and just recently her maternal grandmother had become a widow from the Second World War. The paternal side of Morningstar's family was not well-to-do either, but her grandmother had educated her younger son, Morningstar's father, to a high level, enabling him to become a Lutheran minister as well as a teacher. A highly respected and well-known member of the community, he was the paternal grandmother's pride and joy, and she was hoping for her son to marry a girl from a well-to-do family. That way, he could have been of a financial help to his mother and a younger brother of Morningstar's father. Morningstar's uncle was, of course, given an education also, but he was trained to be a professional men's tailor at the best schools available then. This was the younger brother could help to pay for Morningstar's father's schooling. The younger brother was quick to point that out on many occasions. However, in those days, it was rather common for one child in a family to be educated and then help the rest of the family this way. Since Morningstar's father showed high intelligence right from the beginning of his school years, he was chosen to be the one to be sent for higher education. In this venture, the local church's pastor and bishop was a big help in making the way clear for Morningstar's father to achieve his goals. The father worked his way all through his schooling. He did such odd jobs as delivering bread and baked goods very early in the morning to help people's houses. He delivered to the people's houses and giving remedial lessons to lower grade students. He was often asked to lead a class or two if the professors had to be away for some reason or other. In his upper classes, Morningstar's father was an accredited assistant teacher. This is how he learned to make his way in the world, to work and to study with full success in both fields. Morningstar's father always remembered the sacrifices his family made for him, and he assisted them in all ways that he possibly could. A Lutheran minister was never one of those occupations that were overly or highly paid. Morningstar's family learned how to make do, being very stringent with the money early. The appearance of a well-to-do family had to be maintained. This included a housekeeper, a washerwoman, and nice clothes to wear. This was an impossible job, but the community expected it. For this reason, as soon as the new parish house was built after the war ended, Morningstar's family started to rent rooms out to tourists. In this way, the money that were made through the summer vacationing months supplemented the family's income all year round. Morningstar's paternal grandmother liked to play the lady of the household. She deemed that she knew how to do everything best, and something not done the way she wished was, of course, useless. This included her opinion of how a minister's wife should behave and dress. Many arguments erupted from this attitude between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. The young wife, after realizing that her husband would not take her side against his mother, became discouraged and stopped trying to bring her point across. Even this condescending behavior on the young woman's part did not bring peace into the family. The paternal grandmother wanted no part of this young woman, and she made her feelings known all too often and all too loudly. This led to many fights and arguments between the mother and father of Morningstar, even to family violence at times. In those days, a man believed that a wife should be raised like a child, to behave in the manner he thought she would behave. So if the young, inexperienced wife faltered, then it was all right to discipline her with a slap in some other ways. Morningstar's mother was not used to such treatment. In the maternal grandparents' family, love and tenderness was all she knew. We could say that she was spoiled to an extent. The maternal grandmother lost 4 babies right after birth. The only children that remained alive were Morningstar's mother and her little brother, who was born 6 years after in a clinic. This is the reason that the little boy managed to stay alive. In the clinic, it was discovered that Morningstar's maternal grandmother had diabetes. And this was the reason for the extremely large babies and the other 4 babies dying within a few days after birth. Therefore, Morningstar's maternal grandmother treasured her 2 children. She paid a high price and a very difficult labor for each of her children, and was thankful to God that the 2 remained alive. Now, the maternal grandmother, being a widow also, would have needed financial assistance. But Morningstar's family was too poor to help. The maternal grandmother doted on Morningstar. The little baby reminded her of her own baby's loss so long ago, and she understood and knew that a baby was God's greatest gift. So, right from the beginning of Morningstar's life, there was acceptance and rejection present from the two sides of her extended family. Only later on in life was she to learn that these feelings on the part of her grandmothers were above and beyond her control, and they stemmed from much deeper sources. No one ever discussed Morningstar's grandfathers, so she grew up without knowing anything about them. Later on, she was to learn from a tiny little bits of overhearing some conversations that her paternal grandfather was a tailor before being taken to World War I, and her maternal grandfather worked as a station manager for the Hungarian Railroad. He was killed at his place of work just a few days before Morningstar's birth toward the closing of World War II. This way, both Morningstar's parents were considered orphans, in other words, war orphans. And from this position, Morningstar's father was entitled to help in financing his education. Also, Morningstar's paternal grandmother had a small tobacco shop in her village. This is how she supported herself and her two children. Morningstar's maternal grandmother worked at odd jobs in her village, and after the farms were pulled into communes, she started working for one of these communes. The maternal grandmother also helped at weddings and large gatherings as a cook. She was an excellent and well-renowned cook in the village, and everyone asked her to be the head chef at such gatherings. Neither of Morningstar's grandfathers ever remarried again. The end of introduction.